Abandoned at the airport, a wealthy stranger's touching whisper changed everything in 60 seconds. Emma Thompson stood in the bustling Denver International Airport, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and dread. Today was supposed to be a celebration, her sister's wedding, an event she had been counting down to for months. Yet, there was a heaviness nestled deep within her chest, a burden carried from years of struggling to meet her family's expectations. As a 30-year-old nurse, her life revolved around caring for others, but inside, she felt lost, invisible under the weight of sacrifice. Each life she saved reminded her of the dreams she had shelved, the medical research she once longed to pursue. As she hurried to the gate, the announcement crackled overhead. A delay. Panic surged through her veins, a visceral response that threatened to unravel her carefully constructed composure. What if she missed her sister's big moment? The thought twisted like a knife in her gut. Each second that ticked by felt like an erosion of her promise to her family, a betrayal as sharp as a scalpel. She felt trapped, caught in the currents of a life she had not chosen but had committed to wholeheartedly. Will they ever see her for more than just a dependable daughter? Before Emma could spiral further down the rabbit hole of despair, she noticed a tall figure advancing through the crowd, Mr. Sinclair. He was impeccably dressed, exuding elegance and confidence, with kind eyes that seemed to penetrate her turmoil. The moment their gazes met, his expression shifted from casual observation to genuine concern. "You are capable of far more than you realize," he said softly, a whisper threaded with conviction. "Your story isn't over yet." In that brief encounter, he lit a candle in her darkness, igniting a flicker of desire she thought was extinguished. Suddenly, her long-buried aspirations, years of late nights spent studying medical journals, of fervent yearning to make a difference in the medical field, flared to life within her. Should she cling to the loyalty that felt suffocating, or dare to chase the dreams that made her feel vibrant? The battle raged inside her, every ounce of desperation mingling with a flicker of determination. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the echo of Mr. Sinclair's words haunting her thoughts, Emma felt a storm brewing within. Days turned into restless nights, her mind a battleground of conflicting emotions as she scored an interview at a prestigious medical research firm. It was an opportunity she never dared dream would come to her. Yet the closer the date approached, the thicker her anxiety became. She questioned if she had the right to pursue her own aspirations when her family relied on her day in and day out. The day of the interview arrived, and as she stood in front of the sleek building, her palms slick with sweat, a familiar face caught her eye, Mr. Sinclair again. Here he was, a beacon of reassurance amid her chaos. The sight of him stirred an unrelenting run of nerves. But just as he offered a kind nod, a chilling revelation struck her. Their paths were entwined, connected through an unexpected thread of her family's tumultuous past. With everything at stake, Emma inhaled deeply as a tidal wave of emotions crashed over her. Here she was, teetering on the brink of a life-altering decision. The question loomed: would she break free from the chains of expectation and honor her true potential, or sacrifice herself for the loyalty expected of her? The door to her future stood ominously before her, and the urge to step forward clashed with the weight of her heritage, leaving her on the precipice of uncertainty. As Emma stood before the glass doors of the research firm, a cacophony of thoughts flooded her mind. Each heartbeat echoed the rhythm of her doubts, contrasting sharply with the pulse of hope ignited by Mr. Sinclair's words. She could still feel his penetrating gaze, as if it had laid bare the dreams buried beneath layers of obligation. The world around her faded as she confronted the complex interplay of fear and ambition. She took a deliberate step forward, the polished marble floor reflecting her wavering resolve. "This is your moment," she whispered to herself, digging her nails into her palms to anchor her racing mind. The sheaf of her resume felt heavy in her grip, a tangible reminder of everything she had worked for, a culmination of late nights, relentless studies, and countless dreams postponed. Upon entering the lobby, sleek lines and modern design enveloped her. It felt alien, yet exhilarating, a stark contrast to the sterile, fluorescent ambiance of the hospital she had called home for so long. People moved with purpose around her, confident and assured. Emma found herself questioning if she truly belonged in this new world. Would her nursing background translate into respect among researchers and visionaries? There was a chill in the air that insulated her from the humidity outside. The sky was threatening rain, a direct reflection of her internal storm. As she took a seat in the waiting area, every moment felt magnified. Each tick of the clock seemed to mock her lingering uncertainty, and her mind raced through the implications of the choices laid before her. Would pursuing her ambitions alienate her family, or could she reconcile her ambitions with the role they so desperately needed her to play? A soft voice interrupted her spiral. "Emma Thompson?" The receptionist's gaze was inviting, a brief sanctuary in her tempest of emotions. Emma stood, smoothing her blouse anxiously before approaching the woman. The receptionist ushered her to an office, the door open wide, revealing a panel of 3 interviewers seated behind a long table. The mere sight sent a jolt of fear coursing through her. Each face held familiarity, to the professional world, to power and authority. Her world shrank as she took a seat across from them. They began the formalities, and she sensed their eyes assessing every flicker of confidence and worry reflected in her demeanor. As they posed questions about her experience, the weight of her nursing background pressed down like a physical force. She recalled her time saving lives, the intimate bond shared with families in moments of crisis. Yet, rather than shrinking into the shadows of modesty, something shifted within her, sparked by Mr. Sinclair's belief in her potential. She began to speak not just about her qualifications, but her fervent desire to influence the very fabric of healthcare through research. Each word felt as liberating as it was terrifying, crashing against the barriers she had built over the years in favor of her family's needs. The interview stretched on, and with every answer, she felt herself stepping closer to the edge of a transformative abyss. Did they see the ember of passion glowing within her? Could they sense the gravity of the change she sought? When the session finally concluded, she felt an uncharacteristic surge of relief mixed with anxiety, the kind that accompanies bold decisions. As she exited, the weight of potential surrounded her, suffocating and invigorating all at once. Outside, the rain finally fell, but Emma welcomed it, allowing the droplets to wipe away the hesitations lingering on her skin. With every step towards her car, she couldn't shake the thought of the intertwining paths she shared with Mr. Sinclair, making her reconsider who might ultimately shape her destiny. She could hear the quiet whispering of her aspirations, the promise of what lay ahead. Yet looming behind her were the expectations she had always carried with her. She was on the verge of a precipice. What awaited her would either fortify her resolve or push her away from everything she knew. She wasn't just stepping into a new job. She was stepping into a new version of herself, one that might soon meet the ghosts of her past. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, inhaling deeply in an effort to silence her doubts. Tomorrow held the next round of her journey, one where she might confront the reality of who she wanted to be, not just for her family, but for herself. Yet deep down lingered the nagging question. Would she be able to cultivate this newfound courage amid the shadows of her past, or would the weight of expectations extinguish her burgeoning flame once again? The morning light seeped through the curtains, casting slants of brilliance across Emma's workspace. It felt surreal. Today marked the second interview with the research firm, a day that had harbored both promise and fear since it was announced. Despite the glories of the new environment, a A storm brewed in her mind. The intricacies of navigating this world still felt daunting, layered with perils she couldn't quite decipher. She dressed with purpose, choosing a charcoal blazer, one that whispered professionalism, yet allowed a hint of her personality to shine through. She practiced her name and envisioned the questions they might ask, but one question flickered persistently at the edges of her thoughts. What if they discover her background isn't enough? The irony of her nursing past that had once empowered her was now the anchor weighing her down. As she drove toward the firm, her mind flickered back to the late-night readings of research papers she had buried herself into, fighting fatigue, fueled by a hunger for change. Yet, the memory of her family's expectations surged forth, a counterpoint to her passion. They had always relied on her, a steady hand during crises. Would they understand this chapter she was writing for herself? Upon arrival, she took a moment in her car to breathe deeply, relishing the last moments of solitude before stepping into the unknown again. The building loomed before her like a challenge waiting to be met, and as she entered, the lobby buzzed with vitality, an orchestra of intellect. Yet, the harmony felt foreign, playing a tune she yearned to grasp. As she approached the reception area, the familiar voice called her name again. Emma steeled herself, realizing that each encounter today necessitated a demonstration of strength that felt like an illusion. Despite the tremor in her heart, she willed herself forward. In the interview room, the panelists were more diverse this time, a blend of faces and backgrounds. Their gaze held inquisitiveness, but instead of succumbing to anxiety, Emma looked down the long table and decided to see reflections of allies rather than adversaries. They began with questions, probing gently, but beckoning her to reveal layers she had long tucked away. "So, what makes you a good fit for our team?" one of them asked, tilting her head with curiosity. Emma felt a pulse of warmth rise, a flame illuminating her inner strength. Rather than deflecting to her nursing credentials, she shared her personal journey. The stories of the patients she assisted, the miraculous moments of connection, betokened the resilience that she sought to channel into research. "Too often, I felt shackled by the walls of a hospital," she confessed. "I craved the chance to change the conversation from treatment to prevention, to influence healthcare systems from within." As she articulated her vision, the world around her faded. The voices of her family echoing, "Be practical, stay secure," softened in the backdrop, and she felt the walls of obligation begin to crumble. "Tell us about a time when you faced a significant challenge," another panelist pressed, their note-taking pausing momentarily. The question hung heavily. The clarity of that moment illuminated the myriad of challenges faced in her nursing career, but one stood out: when a life-saving intervention had failed, drowning her in guilt. Instead of spiraling into defeat, she had transformed that moment into a catalyst for her ambitions. "I learned that failure is not an end point, but an opening," she asserted, watching them for signs of acknowledgement. As the interview advanced, her answers grew bolder, unearthing a synergy of personal growth and professional ambition that felt overdue. Still, beneath the exhilaration loomed a specter of fear, whispering that success might alight a conflict within her family deeper than she could foresee. Time stretched and bent as she departed the room, buoyed by an inner fortitude she hadn't expected to surface. The rain as she exited had lightened, but the clouds loomed as a reminder of the complexities yet unresolved. Should she brace for their decision? Would they perceive the spark she lit today? Emma's stomach churned with uncertainty, but she understood that whatever awaited, she could no longer treat her ambitions like a fragmented puzzle. It was a whole that demanded recognition. Yet, as she drove home, a new question flickered to life. What if her pursuit strained the very relationships that had been her anchor? The time had come to confront not just her past, but the paradox of balancing ambition with familial loyalty. How would she navigate the blurred lines between personal growth and the demands of her family? The challenge loomed high before her, promising change, yet inundated with risk. The following days felt like a churning pit in Emma's stomach, a constant reminder of the decisions to come. Each morning, the familiar routine dryly ticked by, yet her mind was a battleground of contrasting desires, the yearning to validate her ambitions and the weight of her family's expectations. Every phone call from her mother seemed a ripple in the larger sea of her internal struggle. "When will you come home again?" they'd ask, friendly yet probing, as if measuring her progress against their set timeline. Engulfed in thoughts of the interview, she realized that she held her future in the balance. Emma began to seek clarity amid the chaos, drowning her fears in books and online courses. Each reading session became an invocation, awakening her sense of purpose. A focus on understanding research methodologies or data analysis turned her anxiety into anticipation. Yet she grew aware of how she was attempting to fill the gaps left by her nursing background, wanting to equip herself with knowledge that had eluded her before. In the stillness of her evenings, Emma journaled her thoughts, translating the chaotic noise of her mind into paragraphs of reflection. It was during these moments of introspection she discovered her voice, the one that had been dulled by submission to family wishes. She posed questions to the page. What was she afraid of losing? Who was she, really? These inquiries stirred a resolve that shone like a beacon in the fog of doubt. A defining moment arrived when she took her journal to a local cafe, a space buzzing with hurried conversations and laughter. The backdrop of life happening around her felt liberating. She was cocooned in a world of possibility. As she penned pages reflecting on her interview, a well-dressed figure approached her table. "Is this seat taken?" they asked, their tone smooth and inviting. The stranger was undeniably charming, yet Emma felt an immediate spark of annoyance, tilted as she was toward contemplating her own battles. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. "You look deep in thought. What's on your mind?" Their words ignited a flicker of annoyance, but also intrigue. As she detailed her ambitions, something unexpected happened. The stranger listened intently, and with every sentence she shared, Emma felt a layer of hesitance peel away. The dialogue morphed from idle chit-chat to a profound exchange about fear, dreams, and the pursuit of authenticity. "What if your ambitions are simply too big for the confines of your upbringing?" the stranger probed gently, their voice wrapping around her like a warm blanket. The gravity of their question landed firmly within her. Was there truth in this stranger's words? Was she carrying an invisible burden that hindered her movement forward? The idea of being too much, a notion she had absorbed from her family, began to crumble under the light of possibility they presented. "Forgive me," Emma smiled, "but who are you to dispense such wisdom?" They chuckled lightly, shrugging their shoulders. "Just a curious observer. Sometimes it takes an outsider to see the truth we veil from ourselves." In that instant, boundaries expanded, and Emma began to wonder if she had been holding herself paralyzed, fearing the backlash of her decisions instead of embracing their potential. The encounter shifted something within her. Fueled by the stranger's unexpected validation, Emma recognized that her journey was not merely about her nursing past, but also about who she could become. She imagined tracing a new path forward, one filled with not just ambition, but authenticity as well. As she prepared to leave the cafe, a sense of newfound clarity buzzed through her. She wanted to share her revelations with her family, not as a defense for her choices, but as an invitation to understand her evolution. But before she could resolve how to approach them, her phone vibrated with an incoming call. A new number. The firm? Her heart raced, anticipation soaring. Was this the moment that would truly define her journey, or would it send her spiraling back into doubt? Emma steadied her breath, knowing that whatever decision awaited her, the path she had begun to carve was now undeniable. How much was she willing to stake on this newfound clarity? The stakes had never felt higher. Emma glanced at her phone, feeling the rush of anticipation mingling with a prickling sense of dread. It was now or never. She pressed the answer button, readying herself for the voice on the other end, fully aware that this moment could redefine everything. "Hi, is this Emma Collins?" The voice was smooth yet authoritative. Her heart raced. "This is Connor from Sturgis and Lee. I'm reaching out regarding your application and the interview you completed last week." "Yes, this is Emma," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "Wonderful. We're impressed with your background and would like to invite you for a second interview. Congratulations." The words hung in the air, hanging dangerously between excitement and the panic that bloomed in her chest. "Thank you," she breathed, trying to sound nonchalant while a whirlwind of thoughts spiraled. "However," Connor continued, "we'd like to discuss some expectations better suited to your qualifications and ambitions. Can you come in tomorrow?" "Of course," she said, the decision lifting her spirits momentarily. Yet beneath that thrill lay an undercurrent of anxiety. What did they want from her that would navigate her away from the nursing career she thought she had left behind? As the call ended, Emma sat for a moment, reflecting on the unpredictable turn her life had taken in a matter of days. The thrilling potential of this offer brushed against the uncertainties that lingered just beneath the calm surface she had been working to maintain. She grabbed her journal, her silent confidant, and began to pour her thoughts onto the pages. What did this opportunity truly mean for her? She questioned if she was truly ready for what lay ahead. That evening, the boundaries of her familiarity began to shift. She realized she was not just walking into a job interview, she was stepping into a new version of herself. Her nursing experience had felt like a crutch, but now, Emma could see how it provided a foundation for her next steps, a narrative of resilience and empathy that would serve her well, but only if she approached this new path thoughtfully. She dedicated time to research the company and its values, aligning them with her ambitions. With each fact she learned, her pulse quickened. This was not just any job, it was a platform where she could assert her voice. No more silencing. She made a list of the skills she could showcase, her previous experiences in healthcare and how they might enrich the firm. What had once felt like a burden transformed into a toolkit of irreplaceable assets. The day of the interview, she donned her best attire, exuding confidence beneath the veneer of nerves. As she stood in front of the mirror, she noticed how her reflection portrayed a woman who had finally chosen to stand tall in her own identity. Each detail mattered. Her laughter would no longer hide behind the walls built by expectation. Arriving at Sturgis and Lee, the thrill of the unfamiliar intertwined with her decisiveness. Emma navigated through the building's sleek hallways, each step resonating with a growing affirmation of her choices. Yet, as she entered the conference room, a voice in her head turned critical. What if they see the nurse in her? What if she faltered under pressure? The interview commenced, and as questions came, she faced them with a determined clarity. Emma realized she was not the girl tethered to her past. She was charting an untraveled course with every response. The dialogue flowed, revealing her insights, her research, and her understanding. Each word felt like a defiance against the expectations she had carried for too long. But midway through, an unexpected question sent a tremor through her confidence. Why the shift from healthcare to this role? The question hung heavy, echoing deep insecurities she thought she had quelled. Emma took a deep breath, anchoring herself in the knowledge of her own narrative. While healthcare shaped my early days, I've realized that the skills I honed there, empathy, commitment, and problem-solving, are invaluable in navigating this broader landscape. I believe my insights could offer a unique perspective here at Sturgis and Lee, she replied, her voice unwavering. A silence followed, the panel assessing her. Emma's heart hammered as she awaited their evaluation. Did they see beyond the surface? Thank you for that perspective, Emma, one of the panelists remarked, a hint of approval in their tone. As she walked out of that room, hope washed over her, yet a question still lingered. Would the attempt to align her identity with her ambitions yield acceptance or criticism from those she loved most? Emma realized a choice lay ahead that was not purely professional, but deeply personal. How to confront her family's expectations with this emerging version of herself. Could she remain true to her ambitions while confronting those who saw a different path for her future? The uncertainty loomed, but one thing felt certain. The real challenge was only just beginning. Emma woke the next morning with remnants of the previous day's state still lingering in her mind. The echo of her own words during the interview looped through her thoughts, amplifying the uncertainties that now crept closer. She had managed to claim a moment of clarity in front of the panel, but what if it was fleeting? The sun sparked through her window, and despite the warmth, an anxiety buzzed beneath her skin. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her reflection in a nearby mirror, challenging herself to see beyond the apprehension. She grappled with the thought that the transition she was contemplating required more than just a change of scenery. It demanded a shift in her self-perception. In the quiet of her room, Emma made a plan. She would not let fear dictate her choices. She opened her journal and started writing about the potential forks in the road ahead. Each entry explored how she could communicate her passion in the upcoming meeting, articulating the drive that pushed her beyond the shadows of her past. Emma remembered the moments in the hospital, how she connected with patients, advocating fiercely for their needs. Those experiences were not a liability. They empowered her story. She listed out specific examples of her determination, weaving them into a narrative that spoke to her capability to excel in her new environment. If they questioned her change of direction, she would have a response that encapsulated her journey. By the time she finished organizing her thoughts, sunlight illuminated the pages, bathing her reflections in golden hues. With her heart a little lighter, she slipped on her professional attire, catching a glimpse of the determined woman she was training herself to be. Today, she would reclaim both her past and her future simultaneously. Arriving at Sturgis and Lee felt like a new chapter opening before her. The sleek glass doors parted like curtains, welcoming her into a realm where ambition swirled in the air. Instead of the old familiar anxiety, she felt a jolt of enthusiasm energizing her steps. Inside, the atmosphere hummed in a different cadence. She observed how her colleagues maneuvered through bustling cables and wires of professional conversation. While some laughed easily, others were engulfed in serious discussion, showcasing a mix of personalities that intrigued her. Yet in the back of her mind, Emma felt the pressure intensifying. Those critical thoughts clawed back at her, reminding her of the comforting but limiting path in nursing. What if she stumbled while navigating this new turf? What if her past defined her, rather than allowing her to rise? She pushed the negativity aside with a practiced determination, focusing instead on her research. After her initial conversations, she found unexpected camaraderie with a few colleagues who spoke openly of their own struggles during transitions. Their shared experiences resonated, peeling away the layers of apprehension she felt. It stirred a realization within her. Vulnerability could be a strength if wielded correctly. Feeling emboldened, Emma bravely initiated her own discussions, steering the topics toward leadership styles she'd read about and accountability measures she believed propelled teams to success. To her surprise, the feedback was encouraging. They appreciated her insights, rotating conversations around her suggestions and elevating her confidence. Yet just as she felt a surge of acceptance, Emma overheard fragments of conversation that sent her mental wheels spinning again. A reference floated through the air, some whispers about expectations from management and what qualities were sought after in a potential leader. It was a stark reminder that even in this supportive environment, the pressure to conform still existed. Doubt began to creep back. Was she truly equipped to navigate these new dynamics? As she pondered, a sudden knock on the glass door broke her train of thought. Emma turned to see Connor standing there, a smile brightening his face. He motioned for her to come join him. With hesitant steps, she approached him. As he led her to a new meeting room, her heart raced again, but not from dread this time. She was ready to confront the challenges ahead. Yet what would this meeting reveal about her role within Sturgis and Lee? Would it be yet another reminder of her precarious balance between past and future, or a catalyst for embracing her identity and ambitions all at once? Emma took a deep breath anticipation thrumming beneath her skin. Today was pivotal, but as she opened the door into the meeting room, the stakes felt higher than ever. Would she step forward into her rebirth or retreat back to the comfort of the known? The moment of truth loomed close, but within her tributary of emotions, she felt the stirrings of something resilient, ready to push against all constraints. Emma stepped into the meeting room, her pulse quickening as she took in the semicircle of familiar faces. Each member seated around the sleek table projected an aura of confidence, their eyes glimmering with expectations that felt both exhilarating and intimidating. She couldn't shake the shadow of doubt that had crept in, but she refused to allow it to dictate her actions. "Emma, glad you could make it." Connor's voice pulled her further into the room, grounding her. He gestured to an empty chair, pulling forth an encouraging smile that nudged her forward. As she settled into her seat, a mixture of nerves and anticipation coursed through her. The meeting began with discussions about upcoming projects. Ideas bounced across the table like a lively game of ping-pong. Emma listened intently, drawing from the dialogue while her mind fluttered with potential contributions. Yet as names and tasks were assigned, she dreaded the moment it would come to her. She replayed her comprehensive notes in her head, reminding herself of the passion and insights she had crafted. However, when the floor opened for suggestions, a paralyzing silence enveloped her. Connor nudged her gently with a look that reminded her of their earlier conversation on the importance of being vocal. She inhaled deeply, striving to quell the churning apprehension in her stomach. "Actually," she started, her voice barely above a whisper. That initial hesitation, however, sparked a surge of defiance within her. "I believe there's an opportunity to incorporate a more dynamic approach to stakeholder engagement in Project Luna." The room jolted to attention, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. She steeled herself against the scrutiny, pushing through an instinct to retreat. "We could explore digital touchpoints, facilitating interactions that align with our target demographics. Enhancing our engagement would not only benefit our outreach, but also solidify our relationships proactively." A few nods erupted around the table. Emma felt a flicker of validation, a warm ember igniting in her chest. The discussions deepened, and for the first time she realized that her past experiences could inform her present decisions. Each moment spent advocating for patients now fueled her understanding of effective communication strategies. As the conversation progressed, she felt the invisible shackles of her past cobwebs dissolve under the weight of her contributions. She began to refine her ideas, suggesting strategic frameworks and risk assessments. The initial reluctance melted away, replaced by a sense of clarity and purpose. Yet with every compliment and affirmation from her colleagues, the shadow of insecurity lingered. What if they mistakenly viewed her as a one-off contributor? What if they weren't genuinely invested in her perspectives? Those thoughts gnawed at her. The need to be impeccable felt oppressive, an unbearable weight that threatened to collapse her newfound confidence. Midway through the meeting, Emma raised a question about their current leadership style. How do we address the gap between what's expected from our leadership and what is often delivered? I think it's essential to discuss accountability. A pause hung heavily in the air, and Emma struggled to read the reactions of those present. At that moment, it became clear that her question wasn't just about leadership styles. It was a reflection of her inner battle, confronting her own uncertainties and fears. Connor made eye contact and nodded slightly, as if conveying quiet encouragement. Emma realized the collective discourse was more than just strategic. It was personal. The dynamics within their team mirrored her transition, emphasizing the importance of vulnerability in fostering collaboration. As the meeting wound down, Emma felt a burgeoning sense of agency materialize. While a part of her still wrestled with her doubts, another part recognized the power of her contributions. Perhaps her past was not a scar, but a tapestry woven with lessons that could amplify her voice. Just before the meeting adjourned, Connor leaned over. "You were fantastic, Emma. Keep engaging like this, and you'll be leading discussions before you know it." His words brightened her outlook, sparking a flicker of hope that began to simmer. She left the meeting room with a renewed sense of purpose, contemplating her evolving role within Sturgis and Lee. Would she persist in challenging herself to engage with the discomfort of uncertainty, or would the pressure of expectation pull her back into familiar patterns? As she walked through the corridor, the potential of her journey lay tantalizingly ahead. The path of personal development she craved beckoned, but with it came the reality of confronting deeper insecurities she had yet to fully explore. Emma paused at the large glass doors, peering out at the bustling world beyond. The question lingered. What new challenges awaited her just outside these walls? Would she dare to explore them, or retreat into the safety of her past? Emma stepped out of the meeting room with renewed energy, but the exhilaration was quickly tempered by the nagging pull of uncertainty. She maneuvered through the bustling corridors of Sturgis and Lee, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts about her contributions. Each compliment echoed in her ears, yet she couldn't shake the desire to prove that she wasn't merely a flash in the pan. As she initially planned to head back to her office, an impulse struck her, a need to confront her doubts directly. She turned on her heel and made her way to the employee lounge, where a few colleagues were gathered, sharing light banter over coffee. Connor was there, leaning back against the counter, radiating the kind of ease that she coveted. "Hey! There you are. How are you feeling?" he asked, his casual tone infectious. Emma wanted to shrug off the lingering apprehension, but the words caught in her throat. "Honestly? A bit overwhelmed still," she confessed, biting her lip. The acknowledgement was raw, yet liberating, like shedding a layer of skin. Connor simply nodded as if accepting her honesty without judgment. "It's completely normal," he reassured her, his eyes earnest. "Most people feel uneasy after taking a leap. But remember, every step forward counts." His support steeled her resolve. Each conversation was a chance to forge deeper connections, not just to share ideas, but to also reveal vulnerabilities. Emma floated the idea of a spontaneous brainstorming session with a few colleagues to refine her earlier suggestions. To her surprise, their enthusiasm was palpable. They gathered around a small table, laptops open, and coffee mugs in hand. Emma felt the room fill with creative energy, and she directed the conversation, cultivating an atmosphere where all ideas, no matter how unusual, were welcome. With each voice, she harmonized her guidance with their insights, deftly weaving together their thoughts with her strategic vision for Project Luna. As the session rolled on, she became acutely aware of how the confidence she had built within those meeting walls cascaded into the casual space around them. Ideas flowed effortlessly from her lips, no longer tentative whispers. There was excitement in their chats, people leaning in, nodding, actively debating the merits of her proposed frameworks. Midway through a point about digital engagement techniques, a realization struck her. Her voice was now a thread in the ongoing narrative of their collaboration. She saw her colleagues not just as peers, but as potential allies in her ascent. They could bolster her ambitions and ideas if she allowed herself to be vulnerable among them. However, just as the momentum had peaked, doubts crept in again. Emma wondered if she was inadvertently stepping on toes. Was she overstepping? Her fear of seeming insistent gnawed at her. This wasn't just about her growth. It was about creating a team dynamic where everyone felt heard. Trembling under the weight of this inner conflict, she made a strategic choice to refocus. "You all bring so much expertise to the table," she began, fighting through the hesitation. "I'd love to hear more about your perspectives on how we can further engage with stakeholders. What do you think?" Their eyes lit up, and the dialogue flowed into new, promising directions. Aldo, the youngest team member, offered insights into innovative digital platforms, and Maria built on that with arguments for user-centered design. Emma realized this wasn't a battle between her ideas and theirs. It was a collaborative forge where every idea mattered. As the afternoon sun streamed through the window, illuminating the space, a sense of possibility began to crystallize. The fear that had once tethered her now vibrated with the exhilarating recognition of her growing influence. She had not only faced the moment of truth about her capabilities, but she had also accepted that her growth didn't exist in isolation. Returning to her desk felt different. The air bore a spark of potential she hadn't sensed before. But just as she settled into her chair, a sudden notification on her computer caught her attention. An upcoming opportunity for mentorship within the company lined up with the initiatives she had discussed. The clock was ticking, and the vastness of choice now loomed before her. Would she step forward to seize the opportunity for guidance, or hesitate again, allowing doubt to cloud her judgment? Emma took a deep breath, contemplating the transformative possibilities ahead. The moment had arrived. She needed to decide. Emma sat at her desk, her fingers hovering over the keyboard as the notification blinked insistently. A reminder of the mentorship program. The potential to develop professionally loomed large, but doubt crept back in, whispering fears of inadequacy. What if she wasn't ready? What if the mentors viewed her as inexperienced? Each question spun in her mind like a whirlwind. She closed her eyes for a moment, inhaling deeply as she sought clarity. The brainstorming session had ignited a fire she hadn't recognized in herself, yet here was a chance to stoke that flame even further. What if this mentorship could unlock hidden competencies she hadn't tapped into? Emma envisioned herself gaining insights from seasoned professionals, sharpening her strategies for Project Luna, and transforming apprehension into action. With a shaky breath, she clicked on the application link, her heart pounding. The form appeared, daunting yet inviting. Her mind raced through her highlights at Sturgis and Lee, the campaign successes, the praise from peers, and the momentum she had cultivated in both her role and relationships. But the self-doubt still whispered at the edges. Were these achievements enough? Would her mentors see her potential, or simply judge her by her current position? She paused, recalling Connor's words. They rang true now more than ever. Every step forward counts. This wasn't just about winning accolades. It was about personal growth and seizing the opportunity to advance, both for her and her team. Emma began typing, pouring her ambitions into the form. The process felt cathartic, an expelling of doubt laden with intention. By the time she clicked Submit, a sense of resolve washed over her. It was a small but significant victory, each keystroke building momentum inside her, the kind she felt during the brainstorming session. As the hours slowly unfolded, the weight of her decision began merging with the buzzing anticipation of what lay ahead. With a few moments to spare, she decided to take a coffee break, needing to reconnect with the energy that the office buzz exuded. When she walked into the lounge, she was met by familiar laughter and lively discussions. The atmosphere was invigorating. Feeling bolder, Emma approached a group spilling laughter, her heart racing with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. "Hey, is there room for one more in this brainstorming session?" she asked, attempting to channel the confidence she had briefly tasted earlier. "Absolutely," Maria replied, gesturing toward an empty chair. "We were just discussing ideas for a new client pitch, and we could use your insights." The moment felt electric. Her colleagues welcomed her ideas with the same enthusiasm she had cultivated in the earlier session. Emma took her seat, weaving her contributions into their ongoing conversation. They bounced ideas off one another, constructing a creative mosaic of strategies and concepts. As the group worked through challenges and solutions, Emma felt a shift. Her voice was no longer just an echo. She was leading the discourse effortlessly. But discord made its presence known when Victor, a senior team member with a reputation for dismissing lesser voices, raised a skeptical brow at one of Emma's suggestions. "That seems a bit optimistic, don't you think?" he challenged, the tension palpable. Inside, Emma's heart raced and doubt bubbled back to the surface. Was he right? Could her optimism backfire? For a heartbeat, she considered deferring, hiding behind her colleagues' safer suggestions. Instead, the sense of growth ignited within her compelled her to face Victor's challenge. "Maybe it is optimistic," she replied, her tone steady yet curious. "But isn't optimism what drives us to innovate? If we don't push our boundaries, how can we expect to stand out?" The room's energy shifted, and her words seemed to resonate, igniting the group's creativity again. Victor's expression softened, and while he didn't fully concede, he acknowledged her perspective, allowing for an unexpected pivot back to constructive discussions. In that moment, Emma grasped the lesson crystallizing in her mind. Her willingness to engage openly, to accept and confront criticism, was pivotal to her growth. The mentorship she sought was not just external. It was the journey of understanding and embracing herself, her ideas, and her voice. As the session wound down, Emma felt buoyed by the exchange, her confidence buoyed higher than when she had started the afternoon. But just as she began to celebrate this newfound strength, a notification buzzed on her phone. An acceptance email flashed across the screen. It was for the mentorship program. Suddenly, everything felt real, amplifying the mix of exhilaration and anxiety. This was a chance to gain even deeper insights, to wrestle with greater challenges ahead. With a determined glint, Emma could now see the path stretching ahead, vibrant with potential. But as excitement fused with trepidation, her internal conflict loomed larger. Would she embrace this mentorship fully, or hide behind the comfort of familiar routines? The decision awaited her, pressing on the edges of her thoughtfully woven future. Moved by the gravity of her recent experiences, Emma stood in front of her mirror, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. Just weeks ago, she was tethered to the demands of her nursing career, torn between familial expectations and her aspirations. Now she had secured a mentorship at Sturgis & Lee, a prestigious research firm where her voice had begun to emerge. This morning, she felt the weight of her accomplishments like a badge of honor. She had faced her uncertainties and transformed them into actionable strategies that resonated within her team. Each constructive conversation revealed just how far she had come. Emma no longer saw her nursing background as merely a stepping stone, but as a rich resource that enhanced her contributions to research. As she completed her morning routine, she recalled the supportive yet challenging words spoken by her mentor, a gentle reminder that growth often resided in the spaces of discomfort. Today marked the beginning of her participation in the mentorship program, and she felt both exhilarated and apprehensive. Would she be able to navigate this new landscape with the same confidence she had discovered in recent weeks? Arriving at Sturgis & Lee, the hum of ambition filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. She reviewed her notes before heading to the conference room, each point a testament to her evolving perspective. Her mentor, a seasoned professional whose gravitas filled the room, welcomed Emma as if she were stepping into a mantle of new responsibility, one that she had fought hard to claim. "Emma, I'm eager to hear your insights on the upcoming project evaluations," her mentor began. The expectation hung in the air, and for a moment, old anxieties threatened to creep in. Emma inhaled deeply, remembering how far she had come. "I believe incorporating stakeholder feedback early could streamline our processes," she confidently replied, drawing upon her nursing experience. After all, successful outcomes are born from understanding the needs of those we serve. A nod from her mentor signaled acknowledgement. Emma's heart raced, pride washing over her as she seamlessly connected her past with her present. With each discussion, she felt the pieces of her identity falling into place. She was no longer a nurse clinging to remnants of an uncertain future, but a professional poised on the brink of innovation. By the end of the meeting, Emma had shared actionable insights that sparked meaningful debate among her peers. The lively exchange of ideas solidified her place at the table. She felt recognized, validated, and most importantly, accepted. Each moment she spent articulating her thoughts revealed to her that she belonged here. Walking out of the conference room, her mentor called out, "Emma, your contributions today were impressive. I'm looking forward to watching you grow." The words felt like a turning point, solidifying her confidence as she stepped into her new role. For the first time, she envisioned herself as not just an employee, but a leader in the making. But with recognition came a realization that led her back to her family. Would her success alienate those who had long relied on her? The potential for conflict tugged at her heart. However, she understood that her growth should be seen as an opportunity for her family, not a burden. The desire to share her journey with her loved ones intensified. She wanted them to witness her transformation, to see her for the woman she had become, beyond their familial expectations. That evening, Emma gathered her family for dinner, setting the stage to bear her ambitions and aspirations. As she shared her journey, the fear of their disappointment lingered, but she spoke candidly about how her nursing degree had empowered her, and how she now aspired to influence healthcare on a larger level. To her surprise, they listened intently. Each nod, each encouraging smile from her family stoked the fires of confidence within her. When she finished, her mother reached across the table. "Emma, we just want you to be happy. If this path fulfills you, then we are proud of you." Recognizing acceptance shattered the final remnants of her self-doubt. Emma was no longer the girl who had wandered aimlessly through her obligations. She was a woman standing firm in her identity, pursuing her dreams without reservations. Now firmly rooted in who she was and what she wanted to achieve, Emma embraced the future that lay ahead. She had conquered her fears, built solid relationships, and carved out a role that felt authentically hers. As she drifted into a sleep filled with excitement for the days to come, she awoke the next morning with clarity and determination. A new chapter awaited, one where her ambitions were no longer confined by expectations, but rather fueled by her desire to lead and influence the field of research meaningfully. And so, Emma stepped boldly toward the horizon of her dreams, ready to confront whatever challenges might come her way. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.